an important question every founder should ask him or herself. What kind of business do I want to build? And what kind of business model does my industry require? So do I need to be global because it is a winner takes it all market, or can I also be a local niche player? And then the second question you should ask yourself is, what kind of leader do I want to be? Do I like more this like local game, or do I aspire a global role? And for us, it was the global role. And that also meant we needed to have this global mindset from day one.
This is Converge, a podcast from Convera. Come with us as we shape the future of finance.
Welcome back to Money 2020. We are here for another episode of Converge live on the show floor. And this is an exciting one. We're going to dive into the challenge of growing a fintech company internationally and taking it across borders. And to discuss that topic, I'm joined by two folks who have, I would say, battle scars from growing globally. First, we have Hong Fang, who is the president of the OKX crypto exchange. Welcome, Hong. And Nicola Ebmeyer, who is the co-founder and CEO of Gain.pro, which is a private market intelligence firm. It's great to have you, Nicola. Hong, I'm sure some of our listeners may be familiar with OKX, but could you briefly tell us a little bit about OKX, as well as your journey to becoming president of the company to start?
Sure. Thank you, Alex, first of all, for having me on the show. OKX is a global platform. We view ourselves as a Web3 focused technology platform. Mm-hmm. We offer primarily two sets of product. One is a centralized exchange for crypto, buying, selling, trading. The second part is a decentralized self-custody wallet, OKX wallet. Both products are generally available in one same app, but customers basically can access either a centralized platform services or a self-custody wallet in the same app. So, I've been with the firm for almost 5 years now. I started my journey on Wall Street, spending 8 years with Goldman on investment banking side, and then later started to do growth investment, and then came across crypto and Bitcoin and started running down the rabbit hole. And 2019, I joined the business and built its OKCoin regulated business globally. But recently, I've been taking on global responsibility as the president at OKX to drive the global growth initiatives. So it's been a great journey.
Great to have you. And Nicola, tell us about your path into fintech and your current role at Gain.pro.
So first of all, Alex, thanks for having me on the show. Nicola Ebmeyer, I'm one of the two founders of Gain.pro and currently CEO of the business. I started my career in consulting, where I was with McKinsey, serving a lot of private equity clients and banking clients. It's an industry that I find fundamentally really interesting. It's high-paced, a lot of smart people working in the industry. However, it's still pretty manual. And I saw an opportunity for technology and digitization in the space. And that's why I founded Gain.pro, and we are a private market intelligence platform. And through a unique blend of technology and human intelligence at scale, we provide more insights into the world of private companies. Mm-hmm. And then for those who are less familiar with the space, most of you will likely still know Bloomberg. Yeah. They provide deep insights into publicly listed companies. Mm-hmm. And we try to do the same for the private market. Mm-hmm. And it is a space that is significantly bigger, fast growing, and in our opinion, currently still underserved.
I would agree. That's great. So, Hong, starting with the topic of crypto, obviously it's been a lot in the news lately, not always for good reasons. What's your take on the recent crypto industry developments, and in particular the increased challenge of global regulation surrounding the industry that obviously has been a particularly pertinent issue in certain countries that are struggling to adopt a competent and effective regulatory framework for digital assets?
Yeah. I think the key is to make sure that we have responsible innovation. And I think that responsibility is with both industry participants as well as with regulators. On the one hand, it's up to our industry participants to be responsible, to be mindful, to take accountability and have self-regulation. A big part of our self-regulation initiative that we adopted starting 2022, was to use technology to bring more transparency to the table. Our proof of reserve program that is done monthly provide that clarity to our customers. On the other hand, we also believe that a forward-looking and reasonable-minded regulatory framework and regulatory clarity is actually very critical and important for the industry to continue to evolve and innovate and reach mainstream. And we are a big proponent for that. So, internally, we've been spending resources to really build for that future. And that's why we have been also investing very locally in our local resources to understand local regulatory requirements, to have local leaders who understand what is needed and also understand local customer needs. Because ultimately, I think both technology and regulation want something good for the customer. We want to bring benefits to the customer. We want to protect our customers' interest. So I think that is aligned. It's really more about how do we find the right path forward. And I think both, responsible innovation from the industry itself, as well as good regulatory clarity can help rebuild that trust and also pave the guardrails for faster development and adoption on a larger scale.
That's well said. Couldn't agree more. So, Nicola, obviously, we've been in an environment where interest rates have sort of rocketed over the last few years, and venture capital and private equity pulled back in response. So I'm sure it's been an interesting few years in the private markets. How is business now? And did you have to adapt much in the last 2 years to this new environment?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Of course, very relevant given the current macroeconomic trends. At GainPro, we have recently published an insight report on the state of European private equity. And for that one, we have analyzed the proprietary data that we have on deal activity over the last 6 years. And what we could see in there is actually that last year, 2023, showed a decrease in deal volume of 32% compared to the peak that we saw in 2021. And as you mentioned in your question, that's of course driven by the higher interest rates, which make it more expensive for investors to borrow money and thus for businesses to raise funds. It also means that future cash flows have a lower present value, putting an additional pressure on multiples. So this is what we have seen in 2023. If I now look at the most recent data from Q1 2024, we do see positive signals. We see that deal volume is higher than it was in 2023 and also higher than it was pre-pandemic. So you could say that the market is probably bottoming out. If I now zoom in on certain industries, there we see that energy, materials, industrials, and services have shown more resilience, and consumer and science and health, they were hit the most. If I now think or give feedback from the conversations that I'm having with my clients and with investors, we see that there is a lot of money, a lot of dry powder in the market. We seem to be getting a grip on inflation in Europe and in the US. Likely interest rates will fall in H2. And there are many businesses out there that have a good business model, have postponed fundraising, have maybe even postponed an IPO. So I'm also looking moderately positive into the future.
That's good to hear. Would love to talk a little bit about the challenges of international expansion from a language perspective. Nicola, just to start, since I'm on your topic right now, GainPro is an English language product, even though you and your founders are based here in Amsterdam. Was that a decision you made early on in order to facilitate international expansion? For example, were you making product decisions from day one that would allow you to grow outside your home markets?
Absolutely. So for us, it was always clear that we want to become a global leader in our space. And I think generally speaking, it's an important question every founder should ask him or herself, what kind of business do I want to build?
Yeah.
And what kind of business model does my industry require? So do I need to be global because it is a winner takes it all market?
Yeah.
Or can I also be a local niche player? And then the second question you should ask yourself is, what kind of leader do I want to be? Do I like more this like local game, or do I aspire a global role? And for us, it was the global role. And that also meant we needed to have this global mindset from day one. The language is one thing, but it's a lot, it's also around like culture, talent, the features that you develop, because if you don't put this global setup into place within the first couple of months or years of the business, it's really difficult. If you have been, let's say, like a Dutch player for 5 to 10 years and then say you want to go international, that's challenging.
Makes sense. And Han, crypto is such a internationally appealing industry. Was OKX thinking about international expansion from day one, I assume, as well?
We do view ourselves as a global platform to start with. Thereby, English has been a de facto default language for us globally. One mistake that we made a few years ago was that we thought that having English is sufficient, which is wrong.
Yeah.
We realized that having English and having a global product and attach it, to address our customer base through digital community is a good starting point, but it doesn't carry us as far as what we would like to go for different markets. It turns out that even if crypto is a global industry, it's actually a collection of local markets. So local communities. We have to get closer to our customers, and the first stop is to speak their language.
Yeah.
So we actually have to go back to what Nicola was talking about. I don't think we had the right product infrastructure to start with because we didn't really have that built-in capability to allow effective localization, language localization to start with, but also later, like you have feature localization.
Yeah.
So we actually went through our internal process to upgrade that. First starting from our understanding and then infrastructure. Right now, we're in a place where we can very easily localize. Obviously, with language, we launched officially in Netherlands yesterday. And we offer actually the services to Dutch communities in Dutch. We did the same thing when we launched in Turkey, in Brazil, Argentina. We launched those products in local languages.
Great.
But in addition to that, we have localized feature for every different jurisdiction, depending on regulatory requirements, depending on community requirements. The features are actually different. So it's actually modularized. We can turn it on and off or customize it. So there's actually a lot of, internal infrastructure built that we went through to get to today's point where we can actually go to different markets and serve customers locally.
I can imagine. So on the subject of regulatory requirements, OKX is available in 200 countries, but notably does not yet operate in the US. Do you attribute that to the burden of regulation by the SEC at the current moment, which is more onerous than in other markets? Or do you see that continuing in the future or perhaps changing? And if so, do you have plans for US expansion?
Yeah. So for US, we have been operating over the last, I would say, since 2018, but under the brand of OKCoin. OKCoin was a global regulated crypto platform. Starting about 2 years ago, we started a bring OKCoin and OKX business together.
Mm-hmm.
OKX was a global crypto-only business previously that didn't do onshore marketing efforts or community or growth efforts. It's
Mm-hmm.
just to attack global community remotely.
Yep.
But now, given our different strategy change for U.S. market, for example, we are going under the same exercise that we just completed in Europe, whereby we are rebranding OKCoin into OKX. So, hopefully by the end of the year, latest, we'll be able to offer the products to U.S. market under OKX brand, but still, in compliance with local, state by state registration, ML requirements, FinCEN registration.
Yep.
Obviously, as you know, in U.S. there's no federal level regulators yet, so we're closely monitoring that, and once that is available, we intend to be compliant as well.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll see some motion there. There's been a lot of commentary recently about how Europe is falling behind North America and Asia in terms of productivity and innovation. So, Nicola, I'm curious, what's your experience been of running a global business out of Europe? Have you run into that feeling at all, or do you feel that the perception is off?
Interesting question. So, as a business, we obviously run operations in different locations, for different locations across Europe. With our engineering team here in Amsterdam, commercial primarily in London. We have a big team in India, in Bangalore as well, and we will expand to New York in the next couple of months. So we have seen the exposure to the different regions, and I do see momentum in all of them. I'm also still positive on Europe, on the US. I just think we need to be aware that the world is bigger than just the US and Europe, and there are so many talented, smart, ambitious people also in other parts of the world.
For sure.
We should take it as our advantage to cooperate and think with a global mindset.
Is there anything you would change about Europe if you had a magic wand in terms of how things are now as it pertains to innovation, productivity, things that encourage business growth?
Generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with being headquartered in Europe. You have great access to talent. I was talking this morning in a panel about the advantage of bringing especially tech talent to the Netherlands, which is pretty unique, that you can easily hire people from Brazil, South Africa, Poland, very strategic location also in the world. If you operate in the US, in APAC, you can easily move from Europe. And also from a fiscal standpoint, it's still pretty attractive here. I think what could we improve? Maybe lower a bit the burdens of bureaucracy, make it even easier to move talent across Europe. But generally speaking, very happy to be headquartered in Europe and operate globally.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with you, Hong. What are the biggest blockers in your view to international expansion currently? Is it lacking capital or fear of the regulatory overhead we already discussed? Is there anything we haven't covered that's a real blocker to international expansion that you could bring up?
That's an interesting question. I think every company has to make their own decision based on their priority. For us, the path that we are on right now, we started a few years ago, and I think the key is really to look across cycles and have a long-term horizon, and really make those long-term investments. Like I think the key to international global growth or development is really one to identify where you want to invest in, how you want to invest in, and identify a few priorities. and make sure that those are the areas either geographically or functionally that you want to make long-term investment in. And then second, realize that it's going to be a long journey. It's going to be, a long journey where you actually will have to work through a lot of hard things.
Yeah.
And then just keep working through them.
Right. Keep going.
And then third is to make sure that you have the right set of people to work with you long term over this, because it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be a 1 year thing. So I think those are like having a clear assessment, understanding what we want, what we need, prioritize, and then focus on building it and then keep building it is the primary thing. It doesn't really our industry, particularly, I think there is a myth in crypto industry where people always say, oh, things move so fast.
Yeah.
Things change so fast. We have to, catch all the different changes. But I think that's a myth from a, business building perspective, because ultimately what we realize is that actually, there's not much thing that have actually changed for us. It's about technology, it's about customer, it's about building things in the right way. It's about not making shortcuts. That's it.
Yep.
Having the right people. So I think it's resisting those temptations of distraction and, going in different directions or taking shortcuts, and make sure that you actually work on those things long term.
Anything you wanted to add to that, Nicole?
So I think excellent point, Hong, on this being in there for the long term, because I'm always saying, like, my credo is think big and be in there for the long term, starting with the thinking big. I think if you want to become a unicorn or a really big company, you need to dare to think outside the box. I don't think that you can build something huge by just thinking incrementally. There will be enough challenges, hurdles coming your way. So if you don't start with a really bold idea and ambition, then it's going to be hard to become really big. And secondly, this being willing to be in there for the long term. Businesses are not built overnight. I had the feeling that during the low interest rate era, there were a couple of so-called founders where I saw a bit of opportunistic behavior. People thinking they could become like rich and build a big company overnight, but it actually takes years and years of hard work. Also, Hong, what you mentioned, the way to the top is not going to be a straight line. There will be ups and downs. And only if you're willing to commit to the long term, care for your people, then you can also achieve something really big. And it's actually very rewarding if you build something that has sustainability, that has a base. That is what feels rewarding at the end of the day.
Yeah. So speaking of ups and downs, obviously the crypto market does a lot of that. So as an exchange operator, how do you sustain growth and innovation, positivity and momentum during those crypto market downturns when people very much, express a lot of fear and doubt around the crypto space?
Alex, let me tell you this. I personally love bear markets.
I do too.
Those are great times.
Yep.
Those are great times where there's a lot more soberness, and then you can focus on building.
Absolutely.
You identify gaps in your team, in your infrastructure, in your organization during bull run. And then in bear markets, you can actually fix them. You can actually pick up great talents in the bear markets. Those who are actually passionate about doing this, not for noises, but actually care about it.
Yeah.
And you can pick up. We actually were able to grow our team in the last bear markets and attract tier 1 talents during that window. And as investors, if you know what you're doing, you can pick up, assets at good price.
That's very true. Yep.
Bear markets are great.
I'm glad you have that view. That's great. How do you both think about making sure that your product or service has a good fit in new markets that you're entering? Were there any major adjustments or pivots you had to make? I guess, Hong, you can start.
Yeah, I think for our product, we have our product, global product has basic product market fit. But when it comes to each local markets, local jurisdiction, we want to make sure our ambition is to be one of the best local platform to our local community where we are locally present. So we really put a lot of emphasis in meeting with local customers, either directly or indirectly. But we actually, for example, we launched yesterday officially in Netherlands. Before that, we have organized 2 rounds of, big trips for our product and business team coming to Amsterdam, meeting with local customers, and getting their feedback. Obviously, we have general assessment, but how do we make sure that we have the right features, trading features, small details, language, payments, any other features they want in the future, why they're using certain things at other platforms, why they like us, why they do not like us. I think those are great input. And that's also why we really like Netherlands, because I think Dutch people generally are very straightforward. They tell us straightforward what they like, what they do not like. And they're very sophisticated, both financially and technologically. So, that's just how we generally go about it.
And how about you, Nicola? Any interesting differences? How did you think about the product market fit entering new markets? Were there any major adjustments or pivots you had to make?
Yeah, so I agree with what Hong said. It's super important to speak to the local community, to the local clients, making sure you really understand how they work, how they think. I also think it's the job of a founder to lead every single market expansion. It's way too easy to put a business development person in place and then blame this person if things don't go well. I think the founder needs to be ready to spend significant time in a new market, sell the first subscriptions, products, him or herself. So we always say at GainPro, like the first 10 clients we need to, in a new segment or in a new market, we need to sign ourselves, and only then we hand the process over to our commercial team. But then if you enter a new market, one is speaking to the local communities and understanding them. But the second one is also daring to bring them something that they don't know yet they want to have. Because you can also just easily listen and exactly fulfill the needs that they are expressing right now. But I think if you want to be an innovative player in the space, you should also already think a step ahead. And this is what we are always trying to do.
Yeah, love it. So looking ahead, what are the most significant trends that you both see in this global fintech world that we live in? How do you plan to stay ahead of the curve with your organization? It's one way of putting it. Sounds like you both are ahead of the curve, but what are your plans if you want to share a little bit of what the future looks like at OKX?
For our industry, I think our passion and conviction is that there's an ongoing trend of going on chain. Data is going on in chain, not only online, right? Like data is not going on chain. Store of value is going on chain, as you see with the increasing popularity and recognition of Bitcoin versus gold and other ways of storing value. Transactions and payments are going on chain with stablecoin taking up the volume versus traditional payment network like Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal and whatnot. And then there's a whole list of social interactions that different builders and entrepreneurs are trying to build dApps on chain to really put the data ownership in the hands of individuals. And I think that that future will happen sometime when there's more product that really enable that. I think the need for going on, all these stuff going on chain and putting ownership and transparency out there is going to be much more needed when the AI trend is pushing forward.
Yeah.
Because AI is continuously blending reality versus artificial reality, if you will. So it's harder and harder to differentiate between what is true versus what is perceived to be true.
Yeah.
But I think there is a value for crypto and tools to kind of reinstall what is actually reality. So from our perspective, I think we as a Web3 platform, starting from the obvious, I think we would like to continue to invest in decentralized capability, decentralized gateway, and then self-custody, and try to bring more mainstream adoption for self-custody. That way, there's less of a concern of FTX type of fail or a bank fail.
Yep.
And there's more access as well.
All sounds great. How about you, Nicola? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so for us, generative AI is a big topic. You see, every couple of decades, you have a mega innovation, mega trend. It was in the 80s and 90s. It was the personal computer. Then in 2010s, it was the internet. And now it is generative AI.
Yeah.
And new technology always opens up the floor for disruptors, new players entering the market. And then it's up to the incumbents to defend their position. And I actually think that as an incumbent, you are in a very strong position to do so, because there's no one else that knows the customer better than you know him. And with any technology, I believe it's core to start with the customer needs, and then think, how can I apply a new technology to it and use this technology as a tool in the toolkit versus the other way around. And if I now look at GainPro, Gen AI, for us at the beginning, we thought, can this be a threat? We saw suddenly players popping up in our market space claiming they provide insights on millions of companies around the globe. And it turned out that actually the depth was missing. Often this information was not correct, so it was not solving our clients' needs.
Yeah.
And what we did then in response was we sat with our senior engineers together and thought, okay, how can we now leverage this new technology to serve our clients better? And we go beyond the standard use cases of Gen AI, where you formulate a prompt and then get an answer back. But we also use methods like vector embedding to get better insights for our clients. And we can do this because we really know what our clients want. If I look now ahead, I think everything that you currently find on the public web will become a commodity eventually. So if you are a player in the data business, you need to make sure that you get access to proprietary information, because this is what will set you apart. And Gen AI is happening. It will affect all players in the data space and beyond. So you better embrace it and take it as an opportunity.
Couldn't agree more. Yep. Well, I want to thank you both for a great discussion. I think the future is bright for global business in so many ways, focused on not just technology, but the amazing inventors who are behind the wheel. So thank you both for being here and for having this discussion today.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.